And we're live. What is going on, man? This is the
So much.
first. This is going to be the first official episode if we actually get this one out. This is the first
Yep.
official episode of our new podcast, the Co-op Couch. Really excited to start this one off because if I'm passionate about anything, it is the X-Men and Wolverine. And I mean, we were watching the showcase together, and you saw my reaction as soon as I saw that flannel. I knew exactly what was going down. So I just wanted to talk to you about and our audience about the potential implications that this game poses for the future of comic book games, I would say. Marvel in particular, but I think it would stretch to comic book games. I think I see something similar going on with Rocksteady with Suicide Squad, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So we got, what was it? Thursday was the showcase.
Yeah, it was on Thursday. We had, not only did we get Spider-Man 2, but we also got Wolverine.
We got Wolverine. So Thursday we had PlayStation Showcase. Oh man, I freaking introduced yourself, by the way. You're the one that created the channel.
No, you're good.
I'm so excited. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Doesn't matter. They don't need to know. This is not important. But this is the nerdy giant. Yes,
I'm the blind prophet. We are the Couch Co-op.
Yes, he can see. He's not actually blind. No, yeah. So this is the Couch Co-op podcast, and we're just gonna have good old discussions. And warning, we do go on tangents.
We go off the rails. We start talking about other games, other movies.
Yeah,
we might.
So the title might
Wolverine, but end up on The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah. So the title might say Wolverine, but we may be talking for Wolverine and then go on a tangent about something completely else. But
like we are now.
Exactly, a tangent about tangents.
Yeah. So yeah, Thursday we got a PlayStation showcase that for the first 35 minutes we saw. Well, I mean, for the first minute we saw something completely out of left field with the Knights of the Old Republic remake, but then for the next 30 minutes we got stuff that we already knew. We've seen 30,000 trailers for Deathloop. We saw that kind of sort of gameplay-esque trailer for Project Eve. We saw a lot of stuff that was very familiar.
You already knew about.
We saw.
I feel like 90.
Go ahead.
I was saying, I feel like 90% of the show was games that we already knew about, and then 20% was stuff that was.
There was that one game that opened up with the I think it was the girl playing the ukulele. That I hadn't really heard or known about.
Chia
or something like that.
Yeah, sorry.
But then Sony, they strapped up and they were like, all right, let's start the showcase, and they opened up with, I believe it was, what was the first one that they showed? They showed Uncharted or something.
So after they showed the all the third parties and stuff.
Yeah, all the third party stuff.
Yeah, it was Uncharted. They showed the remaster for not only PS5 but also PC.
Yeah, and then we got to the topic of this video, Wolverine, and it's a very, very short trailer. It's not even, I don't even think it's a minute. I think it's 54 seconds with the title drop and stuff. So actual footage of what we were able to see of the world and such is probably less than 50 seconds. And we don't even really see Wolverine's face. We don't hear him speak. All we see is the aftermath of what seems to have been a bar brawl. And one of the guys gets back up and approaches him with a knife, and then we of course see Wolverine retaliate by unsheathing his claws, if you will. And the implication that I'm getting to is that in a statement by Insomniac, they did share that it's going to be a shared universe with their Spider-Man world, which of course, Insomniac made the very popular Spider-Man PS4, Miles Morales, and they're the team that did Miles Morales is helming Wolverine. So there was a little clue as well with there's a radio station that is cluing into the world as well. It's 1084. 1084 is the comic universe that Insomniac worked with Marvel to create for their game world. It's I think it's like World 1084. So Wolverine will be taking place in that, and the team actually spoke out. They said that when they would brainstorm together about the future beyond the web slinger, that Wolverine continually came up as a character they'd really be stoked to work on together. So that statement, along with the fact that Wolverine is taking place in a shared universe as Spider-Man, just opens up the doors for sort of a Marvel gaming universe. And that really excites me. At a face value level, I loved Spider-Man, the PS4, but it wasn't like something that really blew me away. We had gotten like Spider-Man games like every 3 years prior. Activision was always pushing them out. But when Insomniac had their take on Spider-Man, it was a great, faithful portrayal of Spider-Man, but it also changed things up a bit to make him feel fresh and not so like tired, and we didn't get the whole Uncle Ben dying and all that stuff. He was a Spider-Man who had been Spider-Man for a long time, actually, and you could see the sort of internal struggle that he was facing of being Spider-Man for so long. So hopefully we get just as faithful and a lovingly crafted portrayal of Wolverine. But again, the talking point of this video for me is the doors that are opening up because of the way that Insomniac are stating this game to be.
To be, was that you were just saying like what it is to be, or you were like to be in the... Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, it was kind of like you went like to be, and I was expecting you to say something else, and I'm like, what? What is to be? I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Yeah, maybe I said that weird, but
no, you're good. Yeah, so I am pretty excited to potentially see what this has to what could be brought about by this Wolverine game. Obviously, like you said, we don't know a lot.
Yeah.
But I do know I think it was like after the showcase, during those I think it was those interviews, if I'm not mistaken, there was they were kind of talking about how when they were making Miles Morales, or Spider-Man, the first one, they were always talking about like different pitches where they could go, what they could do, and they played around with Wolverine quite a bit. And then I just think, obviously, we saw the trailer, so whatever they pitched to Sony obviously worked. So to just know that we now, and not to mention, can we just give a shout out to our boy Wolverine for now getting the spotlight? We get this potential Wolverine game coming who knows when. We have the new Marvel Midnight Suns that focuses on Wolverine a little bit. So he's finally getting the spotlight he deserves, man, and I'm in gaming, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, for gaming, he the last sort of good representation of him was probably that X-Men Origins Wolverine game that a lot of people say is better than the movie. And that's been some time. So
yeah, it was like
for him to get like a full on, like not just gaming representation, but like a full on AAA game. That
for him, yeah,
that's gonna be insane.
And I guess and I know rumors have been circulating, but IGN is an information game news channel. They talk about gaming, so they're pretty legit when it comes to news when they drop it. It has been confirmed that Wolverine and Spider-Man are going to be sharing the same universe.
Yeah. No, I don't think I just said that. I don't think it was IGN that said that. It was Insomniac that confirmed that.
Oh, then IGN confirmed what Insomniac said. Okay, that's
IGN
true.
confirmed what Insomniac confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. The confirming of confirming. But the potential to see what now I wouldn't per se that we could be getting like in the whole end game type of debacle thing where like they're building up, they have an end game for all this, but to know that a shared universe is being created with those two really opens up the possibility of what could be done. And I know you have been brainstorming nonstop about many things. Like I said, I picture you with your hair everywhere and you just have like rubber bands and little pin needles pointed up on a whiteboard, and you're just like, your theories are going everywhere.
Yeah. So for my theories, everyone right now is sort of theorizing about what the game could be like as far as a base level, like for the game. I'm thinking like the future. A lot of people are saying like, oh, it's going to be more along the lines of something like God of War or Uncharted, where it's not really an open world. It's just like it's structured in a way that areas might be opened up with like a sandbox. Like, so maybe there's an area where you can go to like, the X-Men mansion, Charles's little mansion that the school is. There might be areas that you can explore and little stuff, but they don't think that it's going to be an open world game, just because like for Spider-Man and characters like Batman, like they're known for having their own little area. Like, Batman, he you need to ask him for, like, the Green Lantern Corps has to ask him permission to operate in Gotham. You know what I mean? Like, for Spider-Man, he's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Like, so it makes sense when they're based in those like particular areas, and that open world is tailored around them. Whereas with Wolverine, he's kind of like an everywhere and nowhere kind of character, where he's not in one place at one time, or known for being in one particular place. There's places where he's, tied to, like, again, the X-Men, and that, again, could be like sort of like a hub for him, but a lot of people are speculating it's going to be more along the lines of something like God of War. As far as other things like the blood and gore, the possibility of that, dismemberment, stuff like that, that's what a lot of people are theorizing about. For me, of course I would love to talk about that all day, but for me, again, the thing that I'm sort of looking towards is, with Insomniac's statement of, saying that they were looking to the future beyond the web slinger, and this game being a shared universe, Wolverine being a shared universe with Spider-Man, I'm looking at stuff like, again, a Marvel gaming universe, in the sense that, like, maybe after, Wolverine, we possibly, or within Wolverine, because Wolverine, a big narrative point that they could probably draw from is Weapon X, the Weapon X program. If they don't specifically show it, they could definitely reference it. And within the Weapon X program, Deadpool was a part of that too. And Deadpool is a character that fits so well with Insomniac's sort of, style. And especially, again, I talked to you about this with in regards to Sunset Overdrive. Like, if you had just thrown Deadpool into Sunset Overdrive, he would have just fit perfectly. So I see them putting Deadpool into Wolverine in a similar way that they put Miles Morales into Spider-Man, and Deadpool gets his own, like, sort of spin-off game, and Deadpool could possibly be a bridge between Spider-Man and Wolverine, because he has such, iconic relationships with both of them. He has sort of like a weird, like, brotherly type relationship with Wolverine, where he's always kind of like picking on him and being funny with him. And then he has like that dichotomy with Wolverine, where like they're always biting at each other and they can't kill each other. So to see that interaction between both Deadpool and Wolverine, but then also for him to bridge that gap between him and Spider-Man, if they're a shared universe, they would have to come together at some point. I don't see why they wouldn't. I feel like Deadpool would be that bridge for them. Now,
that'd be cool.
Implications, the implications that they have beyond that, that's where I think my theories start to get a little bit more far-fetched, because I could totally see them introducing Deadpool. It would be stupid for them not to, especially with how much of a call there is for the movies to include Deadpool and Wolverine together, with how Insomniac kind of seems like huge fans of Marvel and the way that they've tied things, like they included a freaking Stan Lee cameo in Spider-Man. I don't see them at least not having Deadpool, and especially with PlayStation. See, I'm talking so fast. With PlayStation, they could bring back Nolan North to be Deadpool, or even they could even have Troy Baker have a take on Deadpool. He would be a dope Deadpool.
And that'd be cool too, because they could have like Nolan North. I think would be great as Deadpool because of the sarcastic. You know,
he played Deadpool in the one Deadpool game.
Oh, I never played the Deadpool game.
Yeah, he actually played him. So that's what I'm saying. Like, because Nolan North is so synonymous with PlayStation and Uncharted and all that, he could come back and play Deadpool.
Yeah. One way I'm looking at it, so with the two characters, and this is probably where I'm going to get far-fetched with what you threw at me last night. Okay, I kind of was like digging a little bit more into that. So we have Spider-Man confirmed, and we have Wolverine confirmed. Okay, with Wolverine, it brings in Project X. It could bring in the X-Men. It could bring in Deadpool. I don't know a lot of the background with some of the Marvel heroes, but I know like he could probably bring in the darker side, like maybe Ghost Rider, things like that, where Spider-Man kind of had already confirmed. I mean, we have Hell's Kitchen already confirmed in the game. I think isn't Hell's Kitchen a location in Spider-Man? It's one of the cities or one of the suburbs.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with New York and all that, so I couldn't confirm or deny.
I'd have to go back to. I think on the map there's like a little location of Hell's Kitchen, or like he mentions it or something in the game, and that was kind of a nod to Daredevil, right? So then you have Daredevil, and you have I can never get her, Elektra, and then obviously Doctor Strange, because you have the whole building you take a picture of, and he talks about Doctor Strange and what he does in there. So you have Doctor Strange, and then of course the Marvel Avengers Tower. So putting all this together, this is all far-fetched, totally reaching, but this is just us brainstorming and playing with ideas, right? You have a huge set of characters already right there that you could build off. Now, whether Sony is going to make games one by one off these characters, I mean, as a single player experience, because I guarantee Wolverine is going to be a single narrative driven game. It should be, in my opinion. People think Spider-Man 2 is going to be co-op. So however Sony wants to play their hands in regards to how they handle Wolverine, that will probably give us an idea of what maybe these next games are going to be like. But my prefer would be the single player narrative experience. If they were to do a single player narrative experience for, Deadpool, Daredevil, like all these other characters that we're talking about, that we're talking years. We're talking by the time,
I think that goes in with, a conversation we had on a podcast we weren't able to upload, but, in regards to the way that Sony is approaching gaming and stating that games moving forward could cost $200 million to make, their approach to these games could be similar to something like the MCU, where they're willing to take that time. Hey, if it's going to cost $200 million for us to make, maybe we could structure our games in a way that as we progress and create these stories, they can connect in a way that they encompass into something larger and pay off in a way that, could be much more than just a run-of-the-mill sequel. And I think that's
that is something that potentially could be, the where it's this kind of like, hey, we're going to put this much money into making a game like this.
Yeah.
And I mean, the video game entertainment industry on its own is one of the biggest entertainment industries in the world. So, I mean, they're definitely growing and making moves. When it comes to these games that are shown off, like Wolverine, as it confirmed, hey, it's in development. The thing that really gets my I want to say grinds my gears or gets me, but it's where people's like, oh, well, we're not going to see that for another 3 or 4 years. I'm like, that's not entirely true. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to see Wolverine here in the next year or not, but I have noticed that and Sony preferably, when they announce something, depending on the developer, it's usually a year or two away. It's not usually a 4 or 5 year game out type of thing, right? Unless something unfortunate happens and they delay it. But I could see, going back to what I'm saying with all these heroes and how they decide to draw these games out, I potentially could see them bringing in kind of a Ultimate Alliance type of thing, right? Where maybe we get a Wolverine game, we then get a Deadpool spin-off, kind of like Miles Morales, like you said. Yeah. And then after that, these characters meet up, and they kind of have to join forces or join up somehow, and then it just kind of starts leaning into bigger and badder enemies or bigger and badder situations where, like, the heroes can't do it on their own, and that gives them their reason to bring in these other heroes. Because, again, we've been getting nods through these games, through Spider-Man, of other heroes that he shares a universe with. So I whether it's a Marvel Ultimate Alliance per se, kind of like how you brought up, because you were like, Spider-Man and Wolverine are like on the cover. Do you see that? Yeah. Coincidence? I don't think so.
Yeah. So I immediately jumped to something like Ultimate Alliance because, growing up, when I would see Ultimate Alliance on, like, the posters in front of, like, GameStop or whatever, the two characters I always recognized first when looking at those posters were Spider-Man and Wolverine. They were, like, always the biggest. So I immediately jumped to, like, oh, could this be setting up a world, not so much like the MCU where we get, like, a lead up to, like, the Avengers or something, but, like, an actual comic book, like, Ultimate Alliance of, like, just heroes that could be, all on one screen. Because that's the thing with the MCU, that as much as I enjoy those movies, they still feel like, not even a fraction of what the page of a comic has. Like, when you look at the Avengers, it's not even half of what you would see of an actual Avengers lineup. And when you look at, like, something that I want to get to in a little bit, Civil War is depressingly not even a fraction of the roster that the actual Civil War comic line was.
Yeah, I remember reading the Civil War comics. If I'm not mistaken, it's pretty brutal. Like, big hero names get, like, checked off lists and stuff. So it's a pretty big deal.
And it's like all of the Marvel characters. It's so many, and the movie version.
Yeah, they have, like, everybody
characters against each other.
Yeah, in the comics, you get the Avengers, you get the freaking Inhumans, you get the mutants, you get the New Mutant, you get everybody, dude. I'm pretty sure, like, it's huge. There's some heroes that I didn't even know existed that were in there.
Yeah, because the whole storyline is because it's part of that superhero registration act. So anyone that goes as a hero needs to be registered. That's what is the whole purpose of the whole Civil War. So
I think that could lead into a really great narrative situation that Sony could play with easily.
So that's what I wanted to get to. Is it could either be one of two ways, and I kind of want to go with the latter just because of how Sony has been going with more darker tones lately. But the first was it could be a fun Ultimate Alliance. Everything's just fun. Everything's cool. You just see a lot of characters on screen, or because of how freaking dark and thought-provoking and, fan dividing The Last of Us Part 2 was, I could see something like that with Spider-Man and Wolverine, where Spider-Man would basically be like Ellie or Abby, and Wolverine would be, the opposite, because that's their roles in the Civil War. Spider-Man was on that position of, he was with Iron Man in the Registration Act, where all these characters already pretty much had their identities, revealed. Iron Man specifically, with him being, a billionaire philanthropist, he didn't really care. But Spider-Man still hadn't really revealed his identity, and that was a big, huge moment in the comic.
That was a really moment.
Whereas Wolverine, he was on the totally opposite side, where he thought the Registration Act was almost oppressive, as the mutants were also going through the Registration Act. So if they had their conflict where they need to go against each other in a similar way that Abby and Ellie did, like where they're on the two opposite ends, and we get a video game version of Civil War, that would be insane. Because again, that would be cool. When I talk about Wolverine and Spider-Man, and I think of them in the sense of the comics, they're on two separate. There's definitely a lot of moments where they fight together, but in my mind, I don't know if it's just because of the comics that I've read or because of Civil War. When I think of them as characters on a page, they're on two separate pages. So when you close that book and bring them together, that's what I think Insomniac is building towards. Is we could possibly be getting a Civil War build up right now.
So, and I think that'd be freaking awesome if they did that. And I kind of like how you brought up, and it made me think so Insomniac's done Spider-Man, and now they're doing Wolverine. Well, we got to remember that Insomniac isn't the only one that Sony owns. So one thing that Sony could do is use one of their other studios to do a Marvel game as well. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be now. Granted, Insomniac does amazing with their games lately, but kind of how you brought like a darker, forbidding tone situation. Like if Naughty Dog got a hold of like a Daredevil game, or
Daredevil or Ghost Rider
or something, and then. I'm trying to think of Santa Monica, the creators of God of War. Yeah. If they got a hold a Thor game, for crying out loud. They already got the hammer down, the axe throwing down. They just got to switch it into a hammer.
Yeah, if they did Thor, or like if they did what do you call it,
Captain America Strange. Or something. Or Doctor Strange or something, Yeah. So Sony has these studios that they could easily. So for all we know, again, we don't know what Sony's doing. That's the thing. Sony, if there's one thing about developers and how they announce their news, Sony is very tight-lipped with talking to their consumers in regards to what they're working on, which I understand. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised, and again, this is totally just our opinion, if Sony was in the works with other studios working on other possible Marvel titles, if it is indeed them wanting to do kind of what we're talking about, because it does make sense. Yeah. Like, we have a Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? We have one. It's still going, I guess.
And that
why not have a Marvel?
Is one of the highest grossing movies of all time.
Yeah, Endgame. Well, it was the highest grossing movie of all time for a while there. So yeah, you have that. Why not have a Marvel Cinematic gaming universe? I know gamers would lose their mind, and Sony announcing, "Hey, this is our universe." Well, holy crap!
Yeah.
Like, if they wanted to gain fans, if they wanted to sell system, that would sell systems. Whether you're a Marvel fan or not, you can't deny the fact that Marvel makes money. The word of Marvel makes sense, So I think it'd be a fantastic idea if Sony was to use other developers to work on other Marvel titles. But the issue, the thing I have with all of this, and I'm not saying this is going to like break everything down with what we talked about, but it's something I think that we should discuss, is the fact of the rights and who owns. But you brought up the fact where Insomniac was owned by Sony. Right,
yeah,
so it's not this.
That's the situation that I tried to dive into before sort of getting all these ideas, is that yes, Disney acquired Marvel, and Disney has the rights to certain film characters, and they have all the rights to the publishing of the comics and books and all that stuff, as well as the games. So they don't need Universal's permission to use Hulk to make a Hulk game if they wanted to. So Disney still owns. The thing with Spider-Man, though, was that Marvel had given Sony permission to, make a game. Sony and Insomniac were in talks, and Insomniac thought they wanted to go with Spider-Man. So it just, people think that because it's Spider-Man, Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man right now as far as the film rights. They thought that they also owned the game rights. That's not the case. It just happened to be that Insomniac were like, let's do a Spider-Man game. And because Sony, obviously bought out Insomniac, they own the exclusive rights because that studio made it. So they have the publishing rights to that. Whereas if a company like Activision still wanted to go ahead and do Spider-Man as well, it wouldn't have been exclusive to Sony. It's only because Sony has Insomniac. So in regards to that, if they wanted to do other games and have other publishers or studios do them, they wouldn't be inside this universe. I think that's the part where this is sort of getting like the MCU, because if Sony wants to make this universe, they kind of have to go with those first party studios. They kind of have to go with Naughty Dog. They kind of have to go with Santa Monica. They can't go outside. They can't do Activision. They can't do Ubisoft. They can't do EA. Yeah. They would have to do first party. And I think that's the part that's kind of intriguing about this, because, when you look at Insomniac's track record, they could definitely do a Marvel gaming universe all on their own. I don't think they would need the help of Santa Monica or the help of Naughty Dog. It would definitely help kind of make everything feel like more in line with tone when you have, like, when you talk in terms of the movies, when you talk about like the Guardians of the Galaxy, how they were made by James Gunn, it kind of gave it a different tone. So if you wanted to take a darker tone and do something with Naughty Dog, or if you wanted to take a more mystical tone and do it with Santa Monica, it would probably help, but I don't think they really need to do that.
Well, I think it would also just take off like amount of work, because like these studios, we don't know how many games they're working on at a time, right? I mean, Insomniac, it was confirmed they have over 2,000 employees, so who knows how many are working on what and stuff. So that's when it's getting into territory that I wish I could be a fly on the wall, or I wish I had an opportunity to just go into a studio just to see how things are done, because I'm just like, how they punch out all these games in a year, and I'm like, how the heck do they do this? Like, how many games have, like, that's the thing, is like Wolverine now in development for PS5. Okay, but my question is how long has this been in development for? Obviously, in my opinion, probably not that long, because they didn't even get to show us a face for Wolverine, which tells me they probably don't even have a character design for him yet.
But they probably do, because I mean, dude, those arms were Wolverine's arms all the way, man.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So maybe, but
you're very right.
That's what I'm saying.
To not even hear a voice, like, that's another thing that
or
could
a voice
be indicative of how
exactly.
far they are in production. Is voice acting is kind of something that's done late in production. So to not even hear a voice for anyone, for not even just like a villain or Wolverine himself, just one line, like, not even to hear like, all right, bub, like, that could be indicative of how early they are in production, because again, that's something that's later in production, is getting the voice actor to come in and read those lines.
Maybe we'll have a surprise situation where, like, by the end of this year or by beginning, that's the thing, is they will update us. When there's updates, they'll update us. That's the thing that Sony does. Sony doesn't hold back and be like, okay, now we'll show you. It's just kind of like, okay, we have something to show, let's show it. Like, people are excited for this. So
I kind of want, not that I want, the games to sort of be like the MCU, but Sony or Insomniac rather already kind of did this, and this is why I wasn't surprised when I saw the reveal of this character in the trailer. But they did sort of an end credits type of deal with Venom in Spider-Man.
They did.
I would like to see something like that for Wolverine. We don't get an update. We don't get a trailer. When we get Spider-Man 2, we get an end credits for Wolverine.
That'd be cool.
That would be really cool.
So you think Spider-Man 2 will come before Wolverine?
Well, yeah. I mean, Wolverine, again, we didn't even see voice acting. We didn't see anything. And for Spider-Man, they gave a year. They gave a window year of when it should release. Again, because of the whole state of the pandemic and all that stuff, it could be pushed back like everything else has been. We don't know, but for them to be confident enough to at least give us a year, and for Wolverine, we don't have anything other than a freaking beefy arm. Like,
Yeah.
I think that it's definitely further off than Spider-Man. I don't see it. I don't see it coming any earlier than holiday 2024, and
Yeah.
that's if we're lucky.
And then coming back to the whole, the potential, connection to the Marvel gaming universe or sharing universe, whether they come together or not. The thing is Wolverine and Spider-Man have been confirmed to share universes. So whether it's a big, ensemble of characters, or we may just get to see like an introduction to how the X-Men, and maybe there's an X-Men game that will come in the future. The thing is it's exciting. Like, just a little bit of information for Insomniac to be like, yeah, they're in the same universe is big, in my opinion. It's not just like, oh, that's cool. It's kind of like, whoa, wait a minute here, because they confirmed that Spider-Man and the Marvels freaking Avengers in the game or whatever that was not in the same universe. People thought like, oh, the Avengers are shared with Spider-Man, but then they came out and confirmed that Square Enix's Marvel Avengers is set in a separate universe, and the Spider-Man coming to that is not the same Spider-Man from Insomniac. So it also kind of, where it's just like, okay, so if these two characters do share a universe, then there has to be some form of story revolving, because why would Insomniac go out and just say like, yeah, they're in the same universe just for kicks and giggles? That doesn't make sense to me. So
yeah, I mean, it could be something as simple as like Spider-Man getting a letter from Bayville, New York. I mean, because that's where the X Mansion is. Like,
yeah, that'd be hilarious.
It could be something as simple as that. Because, I mean, again, being that it's that close, Wolverine is in close proximity. If we see him with the X-Men, being that Wolverine was in the bar and he has his flannel on and he's got his cowboy hat on, something about that imagery kind of conveys to me that, like, this is before he's inducted into the X-Men. He has the metal claws, so it's obviously after the Weapon X program.
Yeah. And that actually gets me thinking, where, when the Spider-Man PS4 was announced, everyone was like, oh, Spider-Man, yeah, we're getting Spider-Man. But a lot of people are like, oh, Spider-Man, so we're going to get the same story again.
Yeah.
Well, Spider-Man's story has been told so many times. They were like, no, this is going to be, he's been Spider-Man for a while, and there was an original story. Wolverine, I would be okay if they went in the direction of origin story, because it's been a good minute since, Wolverine story's been told. So if they wanted to go and like, hey, this is a Wolverine origin story for us, I'd be okay with that. Whereas, depending the superhero and how much limelight they get, depends. But yeah, I definitely believe that whatever they showed us, it was way before he knew the X-Men and way before he even, met Professor X, probably.
Yeah, all of that, again, that's just speculation based on what little we saw. I mean, nothing confirms or denies in those, three separate... I think it's only like 3 or 4
speculations and hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
Hopes and dreams. For all we know, so I'm excited. I know a lot of people are excited. I honestly think Wolverine stole the show compared to God of War and Spider-Man 2. In my opinion,
for me, for me, it only stole the show because I didn't expect it at all.
No one. There were leaks and Spider-Man and God of War.
Nothing. There was nothing pointing to Wolverine.
No one had any clue that as they sat down that they'd be like, I think we're going to see a Wolverine game today. Yeah. No, everyone was like, God of War.
Even Knights of the Old Republic, people have been asking for that to be remade for years. So even that wasn't that surprising. It was just like, oh, okay, they're finally doing it.
Though. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Wolverine was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So, like out of nowhere.
With Spider-Man and God of War, God of War more specifically because we actually saw gameplay. Not that it wasn't, breathtaking and not that it wasn't awesome looking. Like, it looks freaking amazing. Like I told you, it was set up for success with, how successful the technically first one, but fourth one.
The reboot,
how incredible that one was, and with the technology that we have for PS5 and all that, and everything that they showed, not that it didn't look amazing, it's just I expected it already. Everybody was already talking about, oh, God of War is going to be at the showcase, God of War, God of War, God of War. Whereas with Wolverine, even with how short of a trailer it was and how little it, really showed and all of that, I still am way more excited for that than I am for God of War. And I stepped away from that showcase more excited for that than I was for God of War, just because, again, I was already expecting God of War.
Yeah, and I mean, for sure, we'll continue to cover this as story develops. I think would be a good idea for us. 100%. Like if something drops on Wolverine, we'll jump on that. But
honestly, I might just start uploading to this channel and make it the Wolverine channel.
The Wolverine channel. Yeah.
No, I mean, I would definitely, I want to stick to doing the podcast as the primary focus, but yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Is like if you say, hey, this news just came out, do you think you could cover it? I could try to, whip up a real quick video, and cover something or theorize on something, because that's something I like doing when Ghost of Tsushima was on its way to coming out. Like I like talking about, like Khotun Khan and his, potential role in the game and stuff like that. So when we have room to theorize and speculate, I like doing those types of videos because, I'm a storyteller, so I like being able to see where I can fit my thoughts into what they're trying to do, even though they might possibly be wrong.
We'll definitely we'll upload what we can, and when there's things that we want to talk about that are like really quick and simple, we do that. But I mean, we've got some other topics all ready to go that we're excited to talk about here in the future. So one I'm really looking forward to with you is our whole Jurassic Park idea with a game situation and Dino Crisis and stuff. So
yeah,
it'd be good stuff.
But yeah, I think definitely I covered pretty much what I wanted in regards to Wolverine. Again, I could definitely just be throwing, like stuff on the wall and hoping for it to stick and it being in line with Insomniac's thoughts. But again, I'm just going off of what they said as far as the world beyond the web slinger. That was their exact words.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to introduce Wolverine, my mind either jumps to Ultimate Alliance. Again, not so much for them to be building towards their own Ultimate Alliance game. Like Ultimate Alliance, I'm not saying as a game like how do I say it? Because it's kind of weird the way that I'm saying it right now. Like I'm not saying, man, how would you?
So Ultimate Alliance as a game is on it like a new Ultimate Alliance game, like a game called Ultimate Alliance.
I'm not thinking in terms of a reboot of Ultimate Alliance or something as the game.
Yeah,
like the
more of Sony's own type of Ultimate Alliance game that's not Ultimate Alliance.
Because I think when people think of Ensemble now, they think of Avengers, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm thinking Ensemble in terms of like Ultimate Alliance, where you had members of X-Men, you had members of you had this and that. It's an ultimate alliance of these characters.
Yeah, basically certain heroes coming together as like the Avengers. I don't think it's going to be Avengers and X-Men and handful of these and handful of... I think if Sony's doing this, it's going to be a small handful of them. I don't think it's going to be these huge ensembles that you see in games like Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I think it'd be like Spider-Man,
I hope it's huge ensembles, because that's something that video games have a leg over films. Is like films are hindered by the fact that like, oh, you have to deal with like in regards to the deals and stuff. Like they have to borrow Hulk, they have to borrow Spider-Man, and for a while they couldn't use Fox's properties like the X-Men and Deadpool and all that stuff, so they couldn't even touch that. Whereas being that Marvel, I think it's called Marvel Games is the kind of not studio, but like the people that oversee the gaming part of Marvel. They're still owned by Disney, but it's like a separate branch of company called Marvel Games. They have the ability to, if Insomniac says, which I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on this, because I don't know why they wouldn't just show the Avengers or show like characters like Black Panther or something. You would take pictures of like the Sanctum Sanctorum and the Avengers Tower in Spider-Man PS4, but you didn't actually meet those characters. I don't know if maybe they were just pulling their punches. They didn't want to overwhelm the audience. You know, they wanted it to be Spider-Man's game, not the Avengers game with Spider-Man or Spider-Man with the Avengers.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but the way that I understand it, and I could be wrong on this, but is if they wanted to, they could put all those characters on screen and not have to worry about all those, and it would be, you know, not so much easier in the sense of like, oh, casting and all that, but like, you know, they don't have to worry about like costumes and stuff like that. Like they could put like a comic accurate character on that screen and it fit. I think again, the gaming portion of it lends itself much better to be closer to a comic page than it does for a movie. And I would love to see all those characters on screen. I mean, there's times when they're all on a page and they can't even, you know, stand like an arm's length apart. Like that's the type of representation I want to see on a screen. It's because, again, when I watch a movie like Civil War in particular, the Avengers, I mean, the team can be comparable depending on what comic line you read. It's not that far off, but Civil War in particular, like that is such a sad movie to watch, even though it's a great movie at face value. It's a great movie, but from a comic fan perspective, to see that lack of representation from so many sides, especially the mutant part, is man, it's so sad to see how lacking that can be from a page to screen representation.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
well, I mean, I'm excited to see what they do, whether it's what we're hoping or whether it's something else. But the fact is, Sony is building their own Marvel library.
Yeah, and if nothing else, the hard fact is we're getting a freaking AAA Wolverine game. Like, regardless of everything else that I'm throwing to the wind, you know, we're getting a Wolverine game, and that I think I'm, you know, just throwing all of this because of how excited I am. You know, for other games that I could care less about, you know, I don't theorize and you know, freaking go crazy like I am for this, but because I'm so passionate about a character. I mean, my 3 favorite comic book characters are all X-Men, and they're Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Gambit. So to see Wolverine getting a full-on game, and not only a full-on game, but a game being made by the, you know, studio that brought probably the best representation of Spider-Man through a game is, I mean, everything I could ask for, really.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, regardless of all this stuff we're saying, like, a Wolverine game is coming, and it's going to be awesome, and everyone should be excited. Again, we don't have a lot of info on it, but I'm sure throughout the months and even the year, I'm sure we'll get little snippets of updates as we usually do with games. So,
yeah.
I think
I think we're good to wrap it up here. As we did discuss, we're going to be, this is our new channel, Couch Co-op. We're going to be trying to upload here as frequent as possible, or not so much as frequent, but as regular as possible. And in regards to future projects, if you guys actually have any thoughts and you know, any of your own theories or anything like that, please do comment them down below. We try to read all your comments. I was really good about that on my last channel. I try to respond to every comment, and I met Nerdy through my comment section, and I'm working with him now on this channel. So we have that, you know, priority to engage with our viewers, our listeners, and converse with you guys, because that's how we met, and we really value that part of the community. So please do comment.
Yeah, if, like, any ideas or stuff, like, we talk about theories, we talk about what ifs, we'll talk about all types of stuff. So whatever you guys, gaming related, movie related, is our most of our topics. So if you guys have any thoughts or any ideas, like I said, let us know, and we're excited to kind of get this train a chugging. And make sure you like, and if you really like, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for us so you can keep up to date when we drop new videos.
And more importantly, stay hydrated.
Yeah, as I drink my glass of water.
Yeah.
And enjoy your video games and keep playing those.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good one.